All right, so I'm just gonna pause I still have the music in my head. Just like a good and not a good thing. So I'm just gonna share my other tab just to make sure that I'm in slide mode and everybody can see. Also, a big reminder for myself to record. Um, so which is good. All right, so let's go there. And welcome everyone. Welcome to this actually April event. We've been pretty busy lately with many meetups with many people wanted to join and talk to GDG Cloud Montreal, which is great. So today we'll tackle GCP Security Control in action. And we'll just go through the agenda quickly. So you'll meet your host, well, myself, and our speakers. We'll also tackle how to ask questions during the events, which is pretty straightforward. Then we'll tackle our main talk. Then we'll keep the Q&A for after presentation, and then we'll wrap things up and talk about what's going to happen for our next sessions. We already have like 2 more sessions planned, which is a rare thing. We kind of usually wing it, but this time we're more like we had great speakers and say, okay, we have great topics, so let's get this going um, until June. Um, well, hello everyone. So I'm Stacy Veronor, Senior Pre-Sales Cloud Engineer at SADA and the host of this event and organizer for GDG Cloud Montreal. I will have our speakers, which I'll let them intro themselves when we hit your section, gentlemen, just so that we'll go through my little part quickly. So I'll have like Maxime and Sofiane from RBC joining me as your main speakers today. So I'm really thrilled about that. And this is coming from a referral saying like, hey, they would love to present. I love like it's been a while since we had like let's say like GCP customers like just like not Google people or SADA people talking. So if there's anyone else out there who wants to join the fun, like more than happy to have you present. Just reach out like on LinkedIn or through our form for paper submission. More than happy to have you over. Uh, Quick, the way we if there's anything during the event itself like on the question, like yeah, on the right side you'll have in the chat you have general, but then right beside it you'll have Q&A. So it's a great way to store the to have the questions there and answered. Of course, like we want to keep the Q&A for in the end, but if for some reason there's anything, feel free to drop it in there. Also, at the same time, we're able to capture those if we need to answer later. What's going on with my slides? Okay, cool. So I asked DALI 2, what's security control in action? And it came up with those 3. So Banksy style, though, I asked Banksy style, so that way it's pretty nice. So I'm pretty sure we're safe from an AI takeover coming from those 3 outputs. I don't know what's going on. There's a guy with 4 arms. There's always somebody holding something like a fire poker. The other one, I'm not sure, looks like, I don't know, but it's just weird. So that was one of those things like, okay, let's ask OpenAI exactly what security controls are. And yeah, at least there's a cloud with a lock. So I'm good. That's the main thing. But with this, I'll pass the puck to Maxime and Sofiane, and this is your splash slide. After that, I'll give you control. Yeah, just take it over, gentlemen.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacy, for this introduction. My name is Maxime Coquerel. I'm a director of cloud security architecture at RBC since 4 years now. And I had the pleasure to lead the GCP security architecture team because at RBC, we are a multi-cloud provider. We use AWS, Azure, and GCP. And I had the pleasure to work with some of amazing engineer architect like Sofiane. Sofiane, I will let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Maxime. Thanks, Stacy. So yeah, my name is Sofiane Bouteri. I'm working in RBC since last year. Time flies. And before that, I was in Desjardins for 5 years, mostly in cloud between Azure and GCP. So for the last 3 to 4 years, I've been focusing on GCP.
Excellent. I just want to check, Safia. I don't know if your mic is working or if it's your laptop, or I just want to make sure the audio was a bit. You seemed far just a little bit.
Okay, let me check that.
Just before we go further, just to make sure that we pick you up properly. But the rest was good. It was clear. It was just like you seemed far away. It was picking up maybe the room also.
Yeah, I'll try to.
Oh, that's better actually.
Great.
We're good.
So that's good.
Excellent. So I'll stop sharing so that way Maxime and Sarvan, you can now take over and you'll be able to share on your end.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You should be able now to do your thing, and I'll go on mute. And I'm not.
Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sofiane. And welcome all. For the presentation of today, we will talk together about GCP Security Control in action. Next slide, please, Sofiane. Yeah, I'm Maxime Coquerel. As I said before, I'm Director of Cloud Security Architecture. My focus is on the GCP platform, and I have the pleasure to work with Sofiane and to do also this presentation with him. Sofiane, next slide, please. Yeah, before to start this presentation, that is very important for us. Any of your opinion expressed in this presentation, that is only my opinion or only the opinion of Sofiane, is maybe not necessarily represent the opinion of RBC or the ownership of RBC, the management of RBC, or the opinion of RBC employee. That is very important for us to highlight that. That is only my personal opinion and the opinion of Sofiane. Next slide, please, Sofiane. Before to start this presentation, a big thank you to Stacy and to Mathieu Benoit for the referral for this presentation. That will be my first time to present for Google Developer Group. And I think that is the same thing for Sofiane. And be kind, because that will be our first time. We hope this topic will be good and interesting for you. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask your question. You can ask your question in French, is okay, or in English. You can do that during the presentation. When I will speaking, Sofiane will answer to the question. And same thing, when Sofiane will speak, I will take the time to answer to the question. And if we don't have the answer, we will try to come back to you. If you want to add us on LinkedIn, please do that. We are also on social network like Twitter, and we try to share information about security, about cloud security. Next slide, please. For the agenda of today, we will talk together about cloud governance, why it's important to implement security control in the public for GCP. And after that, we will go deeper with a presentation of detective security control, preventive security control, responsive security control. And we will also see an implementation example of a DevSecOps pipeline. And at the end, we will conclude about some next step we will have. I like to start my presentation with this slide because I think that is very important to define the responsibility when you are moving in the public cloud. That could be for a transformation project, if you move an application from on-prem to GCP, or that could be because you want to start a new services, a new application from scratch in GCP. I think that is something of key to understand what is your area of responsibility and what is your area of the cloud provider responsibility. I can give you a real example about that. For example, if you want to deploy a virtual machine instance in GCP, you will be responsible to manage the OS update of the virtual machine. For example, you will be also responsible to configure the different security group for the virtual machine. But the responsibility to keep updated the hypervisor host and all the network foundation part, all the storage foundation part, that will be under the responsibility of the cloud provider. And that is very important when you work with a regulator, when you work with compliance framework. to define the different area of responsibility. That's the reason why I like to start a presentation about cloud security every time with a slide like this one. Next slide, please, Sofiane. Now it's very common to have digital transformation in your organization, to move existing application from on-prem to cloud, or to start any new cloud services directly in the cloud. And for that, from what we think as a security guy, we think the first thing to do before to start to deploy virtual machine, to start to create managed services in Google Cloud or in another cloud provider, we think it's very important to step back and to take time to think about what will be your cloud governance, what will be your operating model, how you will operate the cloud, because that is it's a new paradigm that is very different of what we can find from on-prem, that start with people. I think if you want to have a good cloud adoption in your organization, one very key thing for me and for us is to invest on your people, to invest on the skill of your people, because people who will operate your platform need to learn how the cloud manage, how the cloud works, how the GCP works, and that could be very challenging. It's not a two-week effort. That will be a long time effort with different level of maturity, and I think that is very important to have this understanding from day one. The second area of about cloud governance, from our opinion, is automation. It's about how you will automate all the action, because go to the public cloud, the main reason why organizations want to go to the public cloud is to deliver faster, is to make update faster, to keep the application very scalable in function of the traffic your application will receive. Also, what is important as people, if we think as a security, is to define limit, is to define security control, security objective. What the limit you want to put in place for your application, for your platform. You can create some security objective. A security objective can be a security which will define technical limitation of what is possible to do. Will in the next slide, I will give you some example that will be more concrete for you. Sofiane, move to the next slide, please. Yeah. Security objective. I almost encryption of my app 1.0 OTLS 1.3. That was maybe compliance for need with PCI DSS. For example, DSS, it's a framework for a company manage and store. And one of the requirements is to have encryption with TLS 1.2 to enforce all your application. And if you want to automate this security check, because security is a question between your developer, between your security team, you want to automate this security check, this security. You can create a policy to do that. But I know when we start a cloud transformation project, sometimes it can be very challenging to identify which security control I need to create, which baseline I need to deploy, and I need to enforce. And to help you to do that, I will recommend you to check the Cloud Control Matrix. The Cloud Control Matrix, it's a cybersecurity control framework for cloud that covers 16 domains of cloud and more than 133 objectives. And that is provided by the Cloud Security Alliance, and that will help you to have some idea about which security control maybe you need to for your application, for your platform. I will give you a real example in the next slide that will be easier for you to understand. Next slide, please, Sofiane. For example, my example about the encryption, as you can see in the cloud control control, we say data encryption for data encryption in transit. And control certification could be to have TLS 1 enforced across all your network communication inside your application hosted on GCP. That is an example of control, but you have more 100 control examples, and you can pick and choose which control you want to implement for your organization. I think from my opinion and my it's still something good to start with a baseline, and that's the reason. That is the reason why I recommend to all the organization, all the organization we want to invest in terms of security in cloud, to start with a cloud control matrix provided by the Cloud Security Alliance. That will give you a baseline, but you need to remember, based on my experience, from day one, you will not start with a 100 control. I think that could be a continuous improvement exercise, and you will add more and more and more and security control in function about which type of application you will onboard Google. Classification also, you will have application in Google Cloud. Next slide, please, Sofiane. And the idea behind the scene is to create a cloud control, to create a cloud technical control library to have all your security control. But to create this cloud library, yes, you can use the Cloud Security Alliance matrix, a very good start. But in addition to that, you can additional security, your internal security policy and standard, from the industry best practice, from the internal risk governance. If you work with an organization, often they have a very strong risk governance model in place about which application we can onboard in the cloud. Sometimes that depends about the data classification of the application. Want to onboard an application with PII data in the cloud, that could be tricky because you need to be compliant with some other and some external compliance requirements. But all these will give you some find and create control library. As I said before, you will from day one, and all the security control will be deployed. That will be a continuous improvement exercise. If I can, good to have security. We can have 3 security control, and responsive control. Do an high-level overview about that. Preventive is when you something. It's, for example, I don't want to develop to create a public storage bucket. Automatically, the action will be blocked, and that will be not possible for to deploy storage bucket. With control, it's only give you some info. Okay, as already deployed a storage bucket, public storage bucket. Now you will know that it's only to, and after that, react. For example, effective control will fire at 3 a.m. to say, hey, you have a public storage exposed net, okay? How we react? You have to. The first way is to wake up and fix that via code manually. The second way is to have an automated process, like, for example, GCP Cloud Function, automatically modify your that as prevent. That was to give you an high-level overview about what is a prevent control, what is a detective control, and what is a responsive control. And in the next slide, deeper about these different control. Sofiane, if you can come back, please. Sorry for that. Yeah, Sofiane will go deeper. Way to control. The first way is a native way. For that, we will create a GCP organization policy. That is Google provide to you a baseline of preventive policy already deployed in your GCP organization, and you can enable or disable the organization policy. In addition of that, sometimes not enough, because with organization policy, you don't have the ability to create custom policy. That is only the policy defined by Google, only the baseline, and that's all. If you deploy your workload in the solution like Terraform, a good recommendation is to use a solution HashiCorp Sentinel, because will give you the ability to block the deployment. For example, if a developer creates a Terraform code and do a Terraform apply Terraform plan and Terraform apply of this code, HashiCorp and will block, and your public storage bucket deploy. About that, and after that, you have the detection. Yes, you can also use HashiCorp with some detective control and just info about social in GCP. You can security else. I will go deeper after that, the next slide of this presentation, to talk about security health analytics. That is another way to have detective control for your GCP organization. Before, as I said before, for the responsive control, you can use Cloud Function. Slide. We are with monitoring. So in this, we will focus only on. I don't know which whether you are from example season, if I can say, Microsoft Defender for Cloud as this. That is two have a free version, and you have also a I will put the premium version because there's a lot. Okay. I will explain. Maxime,
you have some issue problem. I don't know if maybe you can just focus on the voice and get the webcam. It will help you, I think.
Let me check. Whatever.
I can hear you, but it's like going in on and off. So
yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
It's better.
It's maybe
you
my
can just focus on the voice.
Maybe remove my.
It's okay. Try. I think it will be good.
I will continue about that is trend. I don't know. Yeah, about okay. What I thought command center, you have command center. Logistic organization type services organization I have about
do you want me to continue, and maybe we can go back into your slide? Okay, let's take that. Thanks, Maxime. So we will cover the detective control after, but it's one way to just have some information about your security posture. Let's go back directly to preventive control. So preventive control describes any security measures that's designed to stop unwanted or unauthorized activity from occurring. So you would like to stop things before it happens. So it's a really good security controls, type of security control. In GCP, you have many ways, but we've selected two. One native and one not native, but cloud related. So the first one is organization policy. For those of you who don't know, organization policy are a set of centralized security rules and control within GCP that allow security people and even administrators to define requirements and restrictions across the organization. So organization policy are applied hierarchically, so from the organization to its project and resources. To use them, you have two ways. You can do the UI version, use the UI version to just go directly in the console and do the few click process, or you can use the G-Cloud API with a YAML file to apply them. And you also have like a Terraform support to build some module around policy if you want. So as I said, the organization policy are inherited by all child resource of the resource node to which the policy is set. So if I apply something at the organization level, all of the things under the organization will have their policy, unless you have an explicit override on a child resource. So it's really good to have that, because you have the flexibility to apply something at org level, and you have like some folder exception for some migration project, for example. So organization policy offers security benefits by providing centralized governance. We can ensure compliance and reduce the risk of configuration errors and data compromission. Let's go deeper on how can you use them. So as I said, you can use them directly from the console. So it's really a good security service and security control from maybe people who have like limited resource in terms of engineers or in terms of budget, because you can either choose the manual version or do the automation process, as we will see later. So it's under the IAM and admin blade. You have a section called organization policy. And for this example, I just choose like an easy one, which is define allowed external IP for VM instances. So you just do you just go into the console, select that, and choose where you would like to apply with like the allowed value, and boom, that's it. You have your first organization policy deployed. The good thing is that Google is providing more than 50 organization policy built-in control. So it's pretty good because you can benefit from their expertise to build your security control library. And the other way to deploy them is by code. As I said, you have Terraform, that we will just focus on the G-Cloud version because it's easier to understand. So you build the YAML file where you specify the resource where you would like to apply your organization policy. So here at the organization level, you list the constraints, so the name of the organization, the built-in organization policy that you would like to apply, and then you will list the allowed value. So for example, I don't want any of my VM to have external IP except one of the legacy projects because they have special needs and they know people inside the organization, so they have like the bypass cheat card. So I will like specify their instance name here to allow them to have external IP. So it's a pretty good way to build your organization policy, because you will be able to read it in your code file, and you will be able to store it and version them. And the other way to have a preventive control in GCP, it's not a managed services, but it's related to infrastructure as code. It's with HashiCorp Sentinel. So HashiCorp Sentinel is linked to HashiCorp Terraform. So Terraform is an open source infrastructure as code tool created by HashiCorp. It allows you to define and create your infrastructure in a cloud environment as code. So it's pretty good nowadays to have that. It uses a declarative language called HCL. So it's really human readable, and that's the beauty of it. You don't need to know how to code, just need to know the basics of Terraform to understand a Terraform file. But Terraform come with like some security challenges. How can we ensure that security is embedded in the Terraform files? How to prevent drift configuration, and how to implement security governance for teams, because each teams can have its view of security that can differ from yours as a security people who have a global overview of your organization. So Terraform comes with this challenge, and HashiCorp Sentinel comes with a way to fix that. I'll show you just a quick view of a Terraform file. So for this example, I would like to create two resources, one firewall rule and one network. The firewall rule is pretty simple. I just would like to have an ingress rule with that CIDR blocks with this protocol. So as you can see, it's a pretty huge CIDR block, and it can be intentional or it can be not intentional because I don't know like all the security basics. So that's why security controls can help people to be better in security. And yeah, let's go. Let's try to deploy them. So the workflow of Terraform is first you initiate your provider. So you download them. After that, you ban them. So let's wait. I'm using Terraform Cloud, and I will explain you later why. But here's my plan. You will have the cost. It's really important nowadays, and you will have like that small blade called policy check pending. And the policy check pending is a way to have all your security control listed under, and you will see which one of the security control will fail. So for example, I know that for my Terraform plan, this Sentinel policy called restrict ingress firewall source ranges has failed. Let's go and see what is under that. And I think I have like this one here. It's going to present the moment. It's going to be going to that. So, and I just would like to add something. Sentinel policy checks your configuration between plan and apply, because you don't want your infrastructure to be bad in terms of security. And you have three effects: advisory, soft mandatory, and hard mandatory. Advisory is audit. So in a way, Sentinel policy can also be a detective control if you want. If you don't want to break things, so you will start with the advisory mode. But soft mandatory and hard mandatory are blocking mode. The difference between those two is soft mandatory, you can override, if you have the right to, you can override the result of your Sentinel check. But hard mandatory, you won't be able to. So I would strongly recommend to go to the hard mandatory for production environment, because you don't want any like special cards for that. And let's check that Sentinel rules that we saw earlier. So first, I'm importing function. So the policy import command function from the TF plan function module under the DLS plan. And this function will be used to inspect and filter Terraform plan resource. So it will help me to have like some method to go into the Terraform plan. After that, I'm defining some forbidden CIDR blocks. So this one is pretty obvious because it's like 0.0.0.0. I'm calling it forbidden CIDRs block because it's obvious. And after that, I need to retrieve all the firewall resources because I would like to check inside them if they have like some violation. So I have like that plan find resource method, which came from that import. And thanks to that, I will be able to go into that plan, and I will be able to filter ingress firewall policy with policy violation. ingress and also like the CIDR, forbidden CIDR. So with these two methods, I would be able to have to have like all the list of my network firewall rules in the plan that violates my security control. And at the end, I'm just counting violation because each violating variable will write a message if there is an error. And so if there is an error message that says that you have malicious plan, or let's say like a bad plan in terms of security. So so that's the way of building a Sentinel policy. I would strongly suggest you to go into their blog and to their documentation, because they have amazing content, and you will be able to start from the beginning of Sentinel language. Okay, so we saw preventive control, and now let's see like the last type of control, which is responsive. Responsive control includes any measures taken to repair damage or restore resources and capabilities to their prior state following an unauthorized or unwanted activity. So it's like Maxime said, you have a bucket open to the internet at 3 a.m. You have two choices: either wake up and fix that, or having like an automation to fix that for you. There is an interesting project called interesting project called Security Response Automation in the official Google Cloud repo. The architecture is pretty cool. So a finding is either generated from Security Command Center or Cloud Logging and set to a pub subtopic. The filter cloud function first can optionally run the finding through a series of RIGO policy that will automatically mark the finding as false positive and auto-close it. So that's a good way to have triage there. After that, if the finding is valid for your environment, it is sent to the wherever function, which is configured by YAML to send the finding on the correct auto remediation function that you have enabled, because you will have like multiple function and one function per type of remediation. And after that, the auto remediation cloud function then take action to fix the problem addressed at the finding, addressed with the finding. So let's see the type of automation that they provided to us. So it's supported by Google, and I think that there is an interesting list of responsive control. Of course, you always would like to add your particular use case, but starting with that will cover a lot of pretty simple use case. You have the close bucket function, the close cloud SQL function, and you have a bunch of other which are really good because they help you to have instant way of improving your security posture. So let's wrap up. Maybe Maxime, you would like to go back to detective control if your internet is resolved?
Yeah, I'm back. It's okay now. I would like to know if you can hear me correctly.
Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Sorry for that. I don't know what happened with my internet connection. But just a router reboot, and now I think I'm good. Sorry for that. Yeah, in terms of detective control, what I would like to talk with you, we have two ways to create detective control. One way, if you use Terraform to deploy your workload, you can leverage HashiCorp Sentinel to create detective control. But we have also another way, a native way to create a detective control. If you have Security Command Center with the premium edition, you have Security Health Analytics. And what is already very interesting with Security Health Analytics is you have already a baseline of detective control created in in security health analytics. And just a quick reminder, a detective control is only to inform you, not react, not prevent, but only to inform you about potential misconfiguration. Sofiane, if you go to the next slide, maybe I will, that is to give you an example of the security health analytics dashboard and the baseline already in place. For that, you only need to have Security Command Center, the premium edition. The good thing with the premium edition is from since last week now, it's possible to create a custom detective module for security health analytics. And that is something of very great, because the baseline is, as you know, is defined by Google, but maybe you will have some other security control use case, as I explained before, and you want to cover that. You can leverage security health analytics to do that. Yeah, and one very good thing to have is Sofiane. From what I heard you talking about preventive control, but a good strategy to have is, is to have a one-to-one. It's when you have one preventive control to have also one detective control, because if someone bypass your preventive control from anyway, we never know what an attacker can do. But with the detective control, we have to, you still have another layer with the detective control. And another very interesting thing with detective control and with security health analytics, but that is also valuable for the other services included in Security Command Center, like event threat detection or container threat detection, is when this alert fire, you can send the output of this alert to a pub subtopic, and from the pub subtopic, you can send that also to your SIEM solution. And that is also good, because you can reuse your existing SOC use case, and maybe just adjust that if you have already a SOC use case, for example, for public storage bucket. For Azure, maybe your SOC team can reuse this existing SOC playbook and tweak that for GCP. And from this way, you will save a lot of time to do that. It's what I wanted to share to you. I think, Sofiane, if you want to continue your demo,
yeah,
please.
Thanks. Yeah,
great. Thank you for that.
Great addition, Maxime. It's really important to map all your security control and never assume that they are working well. Never trust, as we say. Let's finish with that DevSecOps implementation. So it's very high level. We just did that to highlight all the security control combined together. But in terms of security, you have like two type of people. You will have like the security engineers, and you will have the consumer. Both have different objectives. The security engineers need to create security controls, whereas the developer just needs to create cloud resources. But they need to work together. So the security engineer creates security control in a GitHub security repo. Its change will trigger its automation with GitHub Action, for example, and Terraform Cloud. And same thing for developer. As soon as he's creating cloud resource with Terraform, for example, it will like trigger its automation. The first gatekeeper, I would say, would be like your pipeline, because you would be able to implement some other security control we didn't mention here, but they are also important, like SAS testing, for example, DAST testing, for example. So this would be like the first way to apply security. And even if like you can also apply some security control at the developer levels with pre-commits, but it would have been another diagram. So let's continue. So as soon as an infrastructure is provided in Terraform Cloud, you will be able to apply your Sentinel policy. So your first type of preventive control. So this will help you to have like correct infrastructure in terms of security. After that, if it's like working well, the resource would be deployed. So the developer would have like his cloud resource, such as Compute Engine, Cloud Run, for example. But let's assume that the preventive control from Sentinel is not working well. Hopefully, we have another policy here to have that second layer of security for the same type of control, which is preventive. So our policy would be a good addition with Sentinel to be able to have let's say, to sleep better at night. And when we finish with preventive control, we also have that security command center feature that Maxime told us about, which is security health analytics, to have information, to have noise, to have security information. So this is the detective control. As soon as the security command center will find some misconfiguration, it will send the security findings to maybe a security project or to the SIEM, for example. So we have a security project here to represent that security response automation that we covered earlier. So that your security response automation receive information from your organization security command center, and it can take action at the end because it has the ability to change state of resources. So the bucket, the open bucket, the public bucket, for example, could be closed automatically with a cloud function. So it's a pretty good thing to know. And the really good strategy, as Maxime said, is to have different layers of security control that map each other. So if you have like that good cycle from preventive, from detective to preventive to responsive, it will help you to have a really good strategy in terms of security, and it will help you to better manage your security posture in the long term, because you will have less chance to have security gaps with that type of implementation. We talk a lot, I think, so it's now time to do the conclusion in the next steps. Maxime, I'll let you start.
Yeah, for the slide I can jump. Thank you, Sofiane. Thank you, Sofiane, and sorry again for the internet issue. But the key thing for this presentation, and the thing I wanted to remember after this presentation, is it's a long journey, and create security control and to have a full life cycle in place is very a long journey. That's why it's important to implement that from day one. From my personal recommendation, and that is maybe not the fun part, because the fun part is to deploy workload, is to do funny Terraform code and stuff like that. But before to jump on this fun part, please step back, see the big picture, and try to identify which cloud governance model you want to put in place, which regulation framework you need to be compliant, which cloud security control library you want to create, with security control you want to enforce. And from day one, please don't start with 100 or 200 security control, because that will be very hard after that for your team to manage all this security control. Because from our experience, from what we see, it's good to implement security control. That definitively everyone is agree about that. But to have a mechanism to test the security control, to be sure the security control is still in place, is still effective, that is another challenge you will have when you will have a ton of security control. And if you don't have an automated process to do that, that will be very challenging for you and for your team. That's the reason why I think in this case it's good to have 3 steps. The first step is design time. Take the time before to start to deploy resources in your GCP organization to define the governance model. And after that, when you have the governance model, try to implement this governance model with a build time. Sometimes you will have some friction with your developer, because you will be maybe not allow all the action and all the permission for your developer, because you want to implement strict rule. But in this case, it's very good to have a conversation with your developer team, and to be very close to your cloud developer team. Not to have the security team from one side and the cloud team from another side. If you that will fail, I can guarantee you at 100%. The best thing, from my opinion and from what we see at RBC, is to have the security team already embedded from day one with the cloud developer team and the cloud engineering team, and that is something of great. And from what I can see, from what I can read in the chat, yes, dev team won't like to not have God mode in cloud. Yes, that is true. But if they want to have God mode, maybe they can have God mode in sandbox and completely isolated sandbox, disconnected from your organization and disconnected from the production project where you have all your sensitive or where you have all your sensitive data. I think that is also important to think about this type of model, about the sandbox model, and maybe isolate production and non-production, and that could be an area, but that need to be a compromise between the developer team and the security team. It's sometimes it's challenging, but one solution could be also to find a security ambassador in the developer team. And if you don't have a large cloud security team, that could be also a solution. And after that, the last step for me is a runtime, runtime governance. It's what I said before is, yes, it's good to have security control. It's good to have KPI. Your management will be happy. Everyone will be happy about that. But in reality, if you don't test if your control are still working, your control will be not have a value for your organization. Because if you say, yes, we have a security control, we say, okay, we can detect if we have a public storage bucket, but in reality this control break because GCP, because Google, or that is also applicable for another provider. If we have an API break and you are not aware about that, and you don't know, and you have never retested your security control, you will be in trouble. Yeah, I will conclude this presentation for my part on this word. I think, Sofiane, you have a next slide with the next step.
Yeah.
And sorry again for the internet issue.
No worries, Maxime. So yeah, to just cycle back on the security control, it's more a wish list. Maybe some Google folks are here, or some people close to Google are here. So it's not Christmas, but hey, time flies, so better be ready. HashiCorp Sentinel Policy are an easy and quick way to implement security control if you use Terraform to deploy cloud resources. Yes, definitely. If you are leveraging Terraform, do it. Minimum investment and a good outcome for that. The only cons for that would be that HashiCorp Sentinel is heavily linked to Terraform Cloud. I know that there is the Sentinel CLI to use the Sentinel language, but at the end you won't fully exploit the capacity of this language if you are not close to the Terraform Cloud solution or Terraform Enterprise. Maybe things will change in the future, but for now, that's the last information I have. Organization policy is a great managed service. It's pretty good. One of the first things you should do in your security task list, I would say, in GCP. Maybe in the future it will be easier to create custom org policy. I would say maybe. I hope that it will come later in the year or next year, because it will really help organizations to have more organization policy. And security response automation initiatives cloud native, so it's pretty good. Even for us security architect, it will it forces us to dig more into that cloud native space. So it's pretty good. But I would say that from my personal point of view, and I think that Maxime would agree with me, that type of service would also have a great value if it's managed by Google. So maybe also in the future it will be managed by Google. And the last thing, never rely 100% on one type of security control, put them in parallel. That would be like the key thing of this talk today. Always put things in parallel, never assume, never trust, always verify, as they say. So we will send you the presentation at the end. We are using with Maxime a lot of technical resources. Some of them are pretty basics, but they have amazing content, like the security and identity blog from Google. You will have like the Google Cloud repo for the security response automation, the Sentinel documentation, and Maxime blog, and my GitHub. I will try to put like maybe a small workshop or a small lab to do the implementation that we showed today, because Terraform Cloud for individual user is free, so you could like easily set up a lab and do that. So just please be patient. I will do it in my GitHub, and I will post a message and I will let you know.
And if you have any question, if I can add, Sofiane, if you have any question after this talk, please do not hesitate to contact us on LinkedIn or Twitter if we can help you or try to help you to find the answer. We will do that with pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm in Montreal, Maxime is in Quebec, but sometimes we go into our Toronto office. So yes, if you would like to speak about GCP security, even grab a coffee or exchange ideas, please message us and we'll be happy to do that. Really happy to do that. Any question? Anything to add? We'll
so far, just for the your automated your security automation piece, maybe with like the latest edition of Simplified to the Chronicle Security Operations Suite, you will have it. Yes, it's managed by Google, but there's also a price tag at the end. So it would be nice to have like a lighter version for the general public.
Yeah, everything comes with a price. You're right
exactly.
about that. You're right.
Yeah. So
I think we have a question about
Yeah, go ahead, Maxime.
Yeah, I think the question is how to avoid security breach between HashiCorp Cloud and GCP. That is a very good question because you need to create an identity in GCP for HashiCorp Cloud, and this identity will be used for the deployment. And you have a service account, an API key, or something like that. One thing it's possible to do is I will speak about maybe the preventive security control you can enforce, and after that the detective security control. For the preventive, one thing it's maybe possible to do is to create a VPCSC to restrict the IP space. But in the case of HashiCorp Cloud, that will be not applicable because that will be applicable only if you have an HashiCorp Terraform on-prem deployment. But in terms of detective, it's also very, very important to create security use case to monitor the action of the identity used by HashiCorp Cloud. That is something of very important, and also about maybe maybe some function like destroy or stuff like that. Maybe you don't want to create an identity. For that.
And also you can maybe just look at some new security features for identity federation. They call it like workload identity federation. It will help us to avoid having any secrets going from HashiCorp and store them. So it's obviously you need like some design for that, but there is a lot of documentation on how to implement workload identity federation. But it's like it's not a one-click process. You need design and plan for that. But
one thing of what is possible to do with HashiCorp Cloud is to have your Terraform agent maybe deploy directly in GCP and just and just to have a link between Terraform Cloud and your Terraform agent, and the Terraform agent will do the job to do the deployment. IAM personalization, that is also an area of what you can do. I think the risk you can have is if, for example, if you have a multi-cloud architecture and you use Terraform Cloud and you have the Terraform agent, the runner deployed to another cloud. In this case, you will trust the cloud A to access to the cloud B to do the deployment. And if the cloud A is compromised, you can assume your cloud B will be also compromised. And I think that is also important to take that in consideration. That's the recommendation we can share with you is to have the Terraform runner agent deploy in the cloud where you want to deploy the resources, and not to have a multi-cloud deployment strategy, if I can say that, something like that. Yeah, and rotate your ASIC key often. That is also very important. It's very a common mistake to see a very a long time key, and that could be a security control. You know, when I did the introduction about the security control, the security objective, you can have a security control to check to have service account key only with a lifetime of 3 months, for example. And if that exceeds 3 months, that will automatically generate an alert, and this alert could be forwarded to your SOC team to say, okay, yeah, maybe, or to your SOC or SecOps team, say, hey, maybe we have an issue about that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, just go ahead, Maxime. I got you.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes it's tricky and to create this type of design, but it's what I said before. It's a long journey, and you need to have multiple iterations before to have a good final result. And I like to say it's sometimes it's better to fail faster versus to wait the end of your cloud migration project. And for me, one key of success is the collaboration between the cloud engineering team, cloud developer team, and the security team. For me, to have these two teams working together and to deliver the same thing, that for me, that is the key of success. Because from what we can see, sometimes it's not a technical issue. Sometimes it's a communication issue about how you approach things, how you will manage the communication about that. Because you need also as a security guy, you need also to be in the skin of, if I can say, to be in the skin of the developer guy. Try to understand their process to deploy, and the developer guy also need to think with a security mindset to say, okay, yeah, we can do that because we have regulation, because we have regulator. We need to follow this compliance. And if we don't do that, if we have a security issue, maybe sometimes the insurance will not work to cover the damage because the baseline was not here. And it's not possible to prevent a breach. A breach will happen in your organization. You need to think with this assumption, but you need to define a strategy and a plan to say, okay, when the breach will happen, what will be my my disaster plan, or I will what will be the impact? Because in reality, it's still a balance between what you want to do, how much money you want to invest, and the risk to have. It's every time a challenge to find the good risk balance between that. It's impossible to secure all your data at 100%. But if a breach happens, and if it's only maybe 2 or 3% of the data, what will be the impact for your organization? Because you can have a financial impact, that is one thing, but you can have also a reputation impact, that is another thing. If you work for an organization and this organization is registered to the NASDAQ or TS6, what will be the impact for the investor? What will be the damage for that? And you need to think also about all these questions. And that's the reason why what I said when I started my presentation. What is my responsibility as customer? What is the responsibility of the provider? And to have an agreement in place. For large organization, like large financial organization, sometimes we have a ton of legal involved to do that. Sometimes that could be not fun for everyone, because we want to start the project fast. We want to start the project as soon as possible, but we have no choice, and we need to take that. We have no choice to have legal in place, because it's not what, it's when that will happen. And in this case, it's what will be my impact, or I will react to that. And that could be a story, a long story, and we can chat about this topic during hours. But yeah.
Definitely. Thanks, Mr.
You're welcome. Any other question about that? Any other interrogation? We are not allowed to share the security model in place for RBC, but maybe we can share some approach with you. Okay, cool.
Thanks for the job.
And thank you so much again, Stacy, for this meeting invite.
My pleasure.
That was great for us to have the opportunity to speak. I'm very sorry about the network outage I had when I started my presentation. And thank you, Sofiane, to back me. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, no, all good. So it just like to one point, like the like on the Google side, yes, you've mentioned Security Command Center and the like the premium tier also. Like and we've talked about everything comes with a price. The good thing on Security Command Center for anybody who looks at the premium side of things, that was like an org level thing. You now have the possibility of turning it on at the project level,
That's great.
and now like it's more as a pay as you go metrics, which is more of a less of a financial impact, let's call it that. And you're able to turn it off enough, like in the interface yourself as a customer, which is great. FYI,
Yeah,
not a
it's a
sales
very good
pitch,
point. Thank you.
just a FYI. It's a one of those things like would be nice to have it if we didn't have to like fire the dev guy to be able to pay for Security Command Center, right? So.
No, you know that is, I think that is a new scalable model, and that is a similar model of what we have in Azure from what we can see. And I think if I can share a last advice is because sometimes we said, okay, we have this security problematic and we want to fix it, and the first reaction that will be, okay, we will check the Gartner report, we will try to identify some external vendor and stuff like that. But sometimes you have already the answer in your cloud native services, and you can start with that before to go outside. And if that can be my last advice is, it's very important to know what you have, what you can do with a native feature before to go outside to external partners. They are very good to want to sell you a ton of stuff, but sometimes you have a lot of native stuff in place and a lot of native feature you can use and leverage to do what you want to do.
Definitely, Maxime. The last advice, but not. I think it's the best one. Honestly, it's the best one.
Great, yeah.
The
Thanks,
sales guy will
Maxim.
not
Thanks,
like me.
yeah. Oh, because I'm coming from a partner, not a vendor, so I just want to make sure my customers are happy on GCP. So that's
okay.
that's my goal. Like if they want to use SCCP, if they want to use Terraform, like I love like even Google, like we love the HashiCorp folks. So their next step is to bring their HashiCorp cloud platform to GCP now. That's gonna be nice. So yeah, it's all in the customer's best interest. That's what I do. So, but thanks again. No, it's super interesting conversation, and like security is at the heart of every conversation when it comes to cloud. So it's important to know what's out there, what can be done, what model to follow. And actually tailor it to your needs and also the size of your team, making sure you make the right choices at the right place. And just make sure, like to your point, like when something bad happens, and it will, then you're actually equipped to know what's going on and how to mitigate and to prevent it from reoccurring. So if I look at my slide, I need to wrap up. But again, like thank you so much for being part of today's event. It was really great. Just segueing on the events, like we have like two upcoming events. We have one that's gonna come live probably like next week for May 25th. We're gonna go end-to-end journey, like from code to delivery, and day two ops with David Sanders from Google. David, I think it's gonna be like his fourth time. I think he likes us. He's bored. I don't know. And on June 21st, I was in Google Toronto last week and bumped into Rogerio, who've talked like maybe a year ago, and we wanted to go like a deep dive on the database side of things on GCP, like not the data and analytics, but the actual database offering and what they can do. So from like Spanner, AlloyDB, Postgres, and all that. So it's not something we've covered. So we said, hey, that's going to be like a change of topic and something that could be really interesting. So we're going to cover that on June 21st, and the events will come up soon. So if you want to join the conversation, we have our Slack channel, so you can register. You'll get notified of the events. You also get notified of the recording. As usual, the recording will end up on YouTube. So if you go back to the event page, you'll have the video straight in there. And also, Maxime and Sofiane, I asked you on through like our trend on LinkedIn if there's any links you want to share. I can put it there, so I'm gonna add them up to the event page, so people can just go and pick them up there also. Because sometimes sharing links in YouTube, they just like remove them because they think it's like clickbait or whatever. So
okay, no worries. We can share that with you. We can share that with you.
Perfect.
Definitively.
Excellent. And yeah, so like for if there's anything that you want to give us a little feedback, of course you'll get the survey email, but also there's the survey page here you can follow. So you can go and not follow, but you can go and fill up. So once again, thanks for everybody for joining us today. Thank you again, Maxime and Sofiane. It was great to have you here. And yeah, we'll see you actually the next one next month, and we'll tackle end-to-end journey DevOps on GCP. Could be like really interesting. So
Perfect.
again, everyone.
Thank you again.
Thanks,
Have a
Have a
good
good one.
afternoon. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.